5 years after the disaster, this week has gone inside the 30-kilometer exclusion zone that now surrounds the accident site to investigate the Chernobyl tragedy. Entrance to the exclusion zone is closely controlled by the KGB, but with the help of scientists working there who now want to tell the truth, we were able to gain unique access to this desolate, devastated territory.
According to the data that was given to the International Atomic Energy Agency, only 3% was emitted. But this information should be regarded from the point of view that, first of all, the quantity of fuel, which we threw off the roofs, was about 120 tons. And we estimate that more than 60 to 80% was ejected from the reactor.
Radiation has fatally damaged Cherno Usenko's health, but he's remained here as scientific director of the exclusion zone. With his colleagues, he's given this week the insider's story of Chernobyl.
The accident at Chernobyl showed that sooner or later the design faults built into the RBMK reactors had to lead to disaster.
As the blazing reactor, just 3 kilometers away, began to spew out radioactive material, the Soviet authorities tried to cover up the accident. Though they knew that radiation levels were rising, putting the population in danger, they refused to give the alarm. In Pripyat, for 36 hours after the accident, there was still no warning. Yet each single hour, men, women and children were getting more radiation than it's safe to receive in a whole year.
We were given no information. Information about the accident reached us 2 hours before the evacuation.
For about 3 hours, we travelled along earth roads to a village surrounded by clouds of dust, which was already radioactive. All that dust settled on the people. There were crowds of people and masses of buses. At 1400 hours, a column of military vehicles carrying equipment and soldiers was coming in the opposite direction.
In the middle of the Ukraine, the wind had changed. Radioactivity from Chernobyl, 100 kilometers to the north, was now blowing towards the city. Yet here too, no warnings were given. Spring holiday crowds enjoyed the good weather, without realizing they were risking future cancers, exposed to radiation levels hundreds of times higher than was safe. Rumors sent people in panic to the railway station, but party leaders wouldn't act to save them.
On the night of the 5th and 6th of May, the question of the evacuation of Kiev was already being discussed. This is a huge city of 3.5 million people, and unfortunately in Moscow on the 6th of May, they retreated from the idea of evacuating Kiev. And it should be emphasized that this decision was taken by the government and by Gorbachev in 1986.
They're still together, still working in the radioactive conditions of the special 10-kilometer zone that surrounds the reactor.
In the special zone, we were working on the rectification of the consequences of the accident. It was a huge task. Well, one of the jobs was especially dangerous, the clearing up of highly radioactive debris. Anyway, we did this job.
By the beginning of September 1986, all the robots had broken down on the roof. So there could be only one decision at that moment, either to stop work on the sarcophagus and look for other ways of operating robot units, which could have been bought from the West or built in a short period of time, or follow a purely political line and drive ahead with the work on the sarcophagus so as to complete its closure quickly. So that's why I think that the decision taken was not a scientific or a technical decision, but a purely political one. At any cost, as quickly as possible, to carry out the removal of all the highly radioactive debris from the roofs of block number 3. That's why on the 19th of September, the government commission took the decision to send men into the high-activity fields. I emphasize, they decided to send people into areas of lethal radiation. This decision was taken, and we began the operation on the 19th of September.
So you see, the most difficult thing was to take that decision, that we would rely on human beings to carry out that operation. That was the most difficult thing. After that, it was all just details. After that, professionalism took over. The calculation of time allowances, the working out of routes and the operation of video, explaining the job to people, briefing them, equipping them with clothing and dosimeters, and all on a mass scale.
They even referred to these people as bio-robots, who could be pushed out onto the roof, where they would get a radiation overdose within a minute, and then be thrown out of the zone. That's what this whole epic amounted to.
Directive U-2617, secret. Paragraph 9. No information concerning the degree of radioactive contamination by people who took part in the liquidation of the consequences of the breakdown at the Chernobyl power station may be disclosed. Signed, Head of Department Shulzenko.
The official figures say that 31 people died as a result of this accident here at Chernobyl. What is the truth?
They quoted the figures correctly, that is, what was published in the newspapers, the figure of 30 participants who died in this whole tragedy. The press never gave any further figures. We tried to make an assessment based on the actual facts as we know them, on the letters of former liquidators, and the figure we arrived at was between 5,000 and 7,000 people. That is, the number of people who took part in the emergency operation and who have already died.
I think that what happened to us, to me, to my friends, that understanding which we gained as a result of taking part in the operation, all these things give me the right to speak the real truth about what actually happened.